So hello everyone, how's it going? How are you guys? I hope you're okay. And today I'm recording a different video and this is because I am showing you how I can work, how I can approach the second conditional and some aspects of Indian culture. So I'm going to apply the second conditional within this comprehension, this understanding of Indian culture. Of course, that it's not the Indian culture as a whole, but some features of this. Okay. Great. So as promised in the last video, I told you that I would like to show you how I can apply this work with students' identity and how to connect that with this content being approached in English. Okay. So before everything, or first of all, I'd like to give you like a warning. Okay. Well, teacher, you need to make sure that students are aware that when a foreign culture is approached in a video, one may be dealing with stereotypes, right? Especially India, you know, this is a huge country and it's not possible to cover all aspects of a culture like that in a video, in a, you know, like a 5-minute video, like the one I'm going to recommend in this presentation, right? And so you may be watching, you know, you may be dealing with some stereotypes, okay, some generalizations. So you need to be careful about that, right? And not consider India just what is being said in the video, what's being shown in the video, okay? So let's get started. And to start off, I've got here a few questions as a warm-up for this class, for this lesson, okay? And here we have some basic questions. It's just to, you know, to notice, to feel how familiar the students are with this culture you are introducing them to, okay? So the first question is, are you familiar with Indian culture? Are you familiar with Indian culture? Are you familiar with Indian culture? Which means, você está familiarizado com a cultura indiana? So you have two possible answers, okay? Yes or no. So the first one, yes. So yes, I am familiar with Indian culture. Yes, I am familiar with Indian culture. Yes, I am familiar with Indian culture, right? And the negative one is no, I'm not familiar with Indian culture. No, I am not familiar with Indian culture. No, I am not familiar with Indian culture. So, okay, this is very basic. You know, you're dealing with some, you know, basic grammar, right? You're dealing with verb to be being applied in a question, in an affirmative and negative, okay? And you have the person you and the person I, right? Of course, that if you want and if you have like the time to do so, you can explore that further. You know, you can adapt the questions as the students answer it. You know, and you can question. You can ask a student, for example, is Fulano or Fulana familiar with Indian culture? So what do you tell me? Yeah. So yes, Fulana is familiar with Indian culture. Or no, Fulano is not familiar with Indian culture. So you can, you know, mix it a little bit, right? And sorry guys, I like to use this Fulano or Fulana, okay, because in Portuguese is the word that we usually use it when we don't have a name, you know, for this person, okay? I'm sorry, it's just a kind of habit I've got. Okay. So moving on to the second question. It's a more open question, right? Because you're using a what in front of the question, to start the question. And so it is, what do you know about this culture? So if you have students who are acquainted to this culture, or someone who is familiar with this country, maybe because of the soap opera, right? We had a soap opera which, a part of it was recorded in India. The soap opera was called Caminho das Índias, or Caminho das Índias, I think, right? Yeah, so some of them may be familiar with it, right? And some of them not, right? So you have to deal with these different situations, these different backgrounds or previous knowledge, right? Then you have a few options. Of course, that if the person can express him or herself and say something different, let this person free to do so, right? So yeah, the first option, and before starting it, it's important that like the unchanging part of the sentence comes first. Okay, like I know. So you're going to say, what do you know? So I know blah 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 blah. Okay. So I know that some animals are commonly worshipped there. I know that some animals are commonly worshipped there, right? So you can practice the pronunciation by chunks, like I know, or yeah, and then you can say that some animals are commonly worshipped there, are commonly worship there, right? And it's a little bit, tricky to try to pronounce, to say and ed and kind of combine with the sound of th. Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but yeah, it's possible to do so. Right, the next option is I know, it is unusual, or even unacceptable, for a couple to kiss each other, on the street, okay? So é incomum, né? É incomum ou mesmo inaceitável para um casal beijar um ao outro na rua, okay? And this is very common in India, like not to kiss, the couple not to kiss each other. My mother spent like around 3 months there, and she told me that couples, they don't kiss each other on the street. And the first sentence, I think I forgot to translate it, and I'm so sorry about that. So some animals are commonly worshipped there. It means alguns animais são comumente adorados, né? Lá, okay? For example, the cow, the mouse, maybe, the elephant, because there are some gods that are represented in the image of these animals, right? They are depicted as these animals, right? The third one, okay, this third one here, right? It is illegal. It is illegal. It is illegal to have alcoholic drinks in a few states. It is illegal to have alcoholic drinks in a few states. It is illegal to have alcoholic drinks in a few states. So yeah, my mother told me that, people are not supposed to have to keep some alcoholic drinks with them. And so, yeah, first it's something quite common, but for them, in a few countries, in a few states, it's not in the whole country, but in a few states, they can't do that, right? The next one is, okay, so yeah, here, é ilegal, né, ter bebidas alcoólicas em alguns estados. Yeah, actually, it's illegal to buy, or even to sell, maybe. Okay, but they can't deal with it. In theory, yes. Okay. Then we have people usually eat with their hands. 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 So, as pessoas geralmente comem com as suas mãos. And so, the last one is marriages are commonly arranged with the help of a marriage broker. Okay? So, marriages are commonly arranged with the help of a marriage broker. So this sentence is saying that os casamentos, né, marriages, o casamento como instituição, né, são comumente arranjados com a ajuda, né, de casamenteiro, okay? So a marriage broker is casamenteiro, right? And so the next step here, okay, after you discuss these questions, right, you practice the pronunciation, you bring in the translation of this. You can even provide them with the translation of each sentence by displaying it in a different size, maybe smaller than the normal text, than the original text, right? And in bold, or I don't know, it's up to you. Okay? So then you have watched the video just to have some input in English and grasp some information with the help of the scenes, the background, and other non-linguistic features. Okay? So even if the student doesn't have a lot of experience of English, and even if his or her listening is not quite good, it's still possible, to grasp some information based on, non-linguistic features in the video, like the background, the images, and the sequences of scenes, right? And what the speaker is pointing to, right? Or actually what the speaker is pointing at, right? Right? So here I have the link to the video, and I will also provide this link in the video description, right? And so you can show this video to the class, or if you're working from home and you're having what we call in Portuguese remote teaching, or distancing teaching. Maybe I'm not quite sure of what concept you're using, okay? But yeah, in Portuguese we say ensino remoto, okay? We have synchronous meetings and activities, but you know, each person in their house, and you know, yeah. All right, so here we have the video. You can show the video on your computer, and you can share the screen, or you can send the link to the class and have them watch it, you know, within some time that you establish for them to watch it. Okay. Well, moving on to the next part of it, you can, you know, like just after they watch it, watch the video, you can introduce some vocabulary related to the video, right? So that, okay, they got some input, okay, maybe they didn't comprehend all of it, but they had some influence, they had some, you know, like some contact with the language. And now you're going to say, you're going to reveal what's being said in some moments, right? Yeah, so I'm going to do like I was like just like if I were in class, okay? So let's see. Shapes, shapes, shapes. Okay, so shapes means formas. Half dozen, half dozen, half dozen, meia dúzia. Sizes, 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 tamanhos, right? And you have to have your students repeating with you, like after you, but with their microphones muted, okay? So that, you know, a lot of noise around you, like they don't, you know, you don't have a lot of noises disrupting your class and disturbing you, okay? So yeah, that's what I would do, and I actually do that, okay, in a class like I have maybe 15 students, right? And I practice the pronunciation as I introduce the vocabulary. And guys, I'm going to provide you with this doc on the description of this video, so don't worry. And then after you introduce this vocabulary, okay, it's not the vocabulary of all scenes of the whole video, it's just a part of it. I have split. I have split this vocabulary into two sections. You know, in which I come up with 3 questions in between. Okay. So number 1. Do you like to make chalk drawings on a blackboard? So like, do you have a blackboard at home? And do you like to make chalk drawings on a blackboard? Like, is it something interesting to you? Is it something present in your life? You know, it's interesting to discover or to find out what maybe what your students may have in common with the culture you were talking about. So do you like to make chalk drawings on a blackboard? So you can practice the pronunciation of the sentence, of the question, in chunks, right? Like, do you like to make chalk drawings? To make chalk drawings? to make chalk drawings on a blackboard, on a blackboard, on a blackboard. Então, você gosta de fazer desenhos com, tipo aqueles giz de lousa, sabe? Numa lousa, tipo aquelas lousa verde, né? So, number 2. Now, guys, number 2. What kind of wacky things do you identify in your country? What kind of wacky things do you identify in your country? What kind of wacky things do you identify in your country? What kind of wacky things do you identify in your country? Okay, so you can say like in chunks. What kind of wacky things do you identify in your country? Okay? Que coisas estranhas, né? Ou, tipo, não sei se eu poderia dizer que é bizarro, mas estranhas, que você identifica no seu país, right? So, as the video is about 14 wacky things about India, we can have our students think about what kind of wacky things they identify in their own country, okay? Or in their own states or cities. It's also interesting to do that. Number 3, what signs of manliness do men try to show in your country? What signs of manliness do men try to show in your country? Que sinais, né, de masculinidade, ok? Manliness is masculinidade. Os homens tentam mostrar no seu país. And so, what you can do in this activity is that you can have your students choose what question they want to answer, right? And then you have them form groups or pairs to exchange the roles of who is going to ask and who is going to answer the question. And in this approach, in this way of working with the target language, my intention here is not to forbid them to of using the translators or dictionaries, okay? In this moment here, they are allowed to use these tools in order to build their sentences, to build their answers, okay? And why I do that? Okay, Maggie, but you're teaching your students with the translator. No, I'm not doing that, okay? I'm just giving them the opportunity for them to express what they think, even though, like, even within a whole class or term or module, sometimes it's not possible to cover every word of English or every expression, every idiom, or you know what I mean? So in these moments here, which needs to be somehow brief, yes, they have the freedom of trying to express what they think, although they hadn't learned in class the words for this, okay? So this is the purpose of these moments, right? And so the student can create another question if, let's suppose that the student does not want to ask these kind of questions, or they don't want to answer these kind of questions, yes, and so he or she is free to make up one, right? So you can have them create another question. And here we have the second part of the vocabulary that was in the video, right? And then you have the same procedure. You have 3 questions. You have your students choose 1 question to answer, and they do a pair work. After that, you can have a conversation like in a round shape, okay? Like in a turn of conversation, of dialogue. You can work with this question here. Do you know anyone from India? Do you know anyone from India? Do you know anyone from India? Like, do you have any friends from India? Do you know someone from there? So, yeah, this is the question. And here we have 3 options. Yes, I know a friend from India. Yes, I know a friend from India. Yes, I know a friend from India. Or yes, I know a few people from India. Yes, I know a few people from India. Yes, I know a few people from India. Or no, I don't know anyone from India. No, I don't know anyone from India. No, I don't know anyone from India. So you can have this conversation in a turn, okay? Em turno, right? Involving all the students, okay? You have to have your students speak up their minds. Now, let's talk about hypothetical situations, and this is where the second conditional comes in, right? So yeah, now let's talk about hypothetical situations. Agora vamos falar sobre situações hipotéticas. What would you do? What would you do? O que você faria? What would you do? So as I scroll down the page, you can see that I start working specifically with this grammar structure, with this grammar point, right? This grammar topic. And in order to have students, not getting afraid or scared about, oh my god, oh my goodness, what is that? What is this second conditional? And they start facing it as a monster, and when it's not actually. So if you were talking to a foreigner visitor, how would you describe your culture? If you were talking to a foreigner visitor, how would you describe your culture? If you were talking to a foreigner visitor, how would you describe your culture? So you can practice this phrase, this sentence within, using chunks, okay, pedaços of this question, and in different cases, in different speeds, okay? And you can show them how to start answering this question using these structures, okay? Like, in my country, people usually, or in my state, people usually, in my city, people usually, right? And then you work on its pronunciation. In my country, in my country, in my country, okay? And guys, teachers, it's really important that you focus, you give some emphasis on the pronunciation, on the on the part of the word in which Brazilian speakers or commonly make mistakes. Sometimes people say country. So no, guys, it's country. Okay, so country. In my country, people usually, right? Yeah, that's it. And then I think we're approaching the end of it. Yes, we are almost in the end. So let's suppose you have to travel to India to do research on their culture. According to the video, what would you have to do to fit in the new environment? So another hypothetical situation: you are going to India to do research. You know, you have to get acquainted with their customs and habits and rituals, maybe in order to analyze that or study that. And so this is the hypothetical situation. What would be the consequence if it was if it was real? Okay, so according to the video, what would you have to do? What would you have to do to fit in the new environment? Actually, it's not according to the video, but based on what you have seen in the video. I'm even going to correct this sentence, this comment, because it's not specific. It's not exactly according to the video, but based on what you have seen in the video. What would you have to do to fit in the new environment? So, I would have to, quer dizer, né, eu teria que, I would have to, get used to eating with my hands. Get used to eating with my hands. Get used to eating with my hands. It's also interesting to have your students familiar with these different ways of talking about habits, okay? Like get used to, which means acostumar-se com, right? Adapt myself to their dressing code. So this is the second option. Adapt myself to their dressing code. I would have to adapt myself to their dressing code. I would have to be careful with where I can step on. I would have to be careful with where I can step on. Next, I would have to. It's important that you also show them, a slow way to say that, so that they can really understand what you're saying. Because, when you're teaching through the internet, through a video call, sometimes, the internet fails and the connection does not help. And so sometimes they may not get what you're saying, okay? So yeah, sometimes it's important to also practice it or show them the pronunciation in slow mode, okay? So be careful. Yes, that's it. Be careful with where I can step on. Be careful. Be careful with where I can't step on. I can't step on. I can't step on. Right? And the last one, get used to eating vegetarian food. Get used to eating vegetarian food. Get used to eating vegetarian food. Okay? And that's it. You can also have your students making up other possible answers, and they are free to say something different, right? Because sometimes you have students who are advanced, and they may come up with something else, and it's important that they feel free to do so, and they feel challenged to bring something more advanced, right? Well, the next question is, what wouldn't you ever get used to if you lived in India? Então, o que você nunca, ok? Com o que você nunca se acostumaria se você vivesse na Índia, right? So now you're seeing, you can see the negative form of the would structure, okay? So I wouldn't ever get used to, get used to, get used to. Then you have eating vegetarian food, eating vegetarian food, eating vegetarian food, okay? Eating with my hands, eating with my hands, eating with my hands. Driving in India, driving in India, driving in India. And then you have free space for them to bring something different. Okay. Next, and I think this is the last question. Yes, this is. What would an Indian-born person find it difficult to get used to if he or she lived in Brazil? Right? So now you have an open question. Yes? Actually, all of these questions are open. Yes? But here, yeah, we have, it's a little bit more complex, but yeah, the way it is built, actually. It's a little bit complex, but it's quite possible for you to introduce this question to your students, right? So what would an Indian-born person find it difficult to get used to if he or she lived in Brazil? So how can you practice pronunciation through this sentence? You can also use chunks. Okay. What would an Indian-born person? What would an Indian-born person? An Indian-born person. An Indian-born person find it difficult? Find it difficult. Find it difficult to get used to. To get used to. To get used to. To get used to. If he or she lived in Brazil, lived in Brazil, lived in Brazil, right? So you can start the answer by saying maybe. Well, actually, you don't have comma here. Yeah. Maybe he would find it difficult to get used to. Maybe he would find it difficult to get used to. Maybe he would find it difficult to get used to. To get used to. To get used to. And then you come up with the options, right? Eating with a fork and a knife, maybe because they eat with their hands. So eating with a fork and a knife. Seeing two people kissing each other on the street. Seeing two people kissing each other on the street, or eating non-vegetarian food. Eating non-vegetarian food. Eating non-vegetarian food. And so I've added an hyphen in order to have it, to get it right now. So, eating non-vegetarian food, eating non-vegetarian food, eating non-vegetarian food, right? So here you have other options, and what you're practicing here is that you're having your students practice the second conditional, okay? And this is nice to work this way because they're not even aware of the grammar structure behind it. You can come up with a more formal or conscious explanation on how the sentence is structured in a follow-up lesson, right? And my suggestion here, guys, is that okay, you can have some more conscious approach, a more grammar-based lesson, but maybe for a follow-up lesson, okay? Not here. In this moment, you're having your students get familiar with the structure, with how to make sentences using would, using if, okay, and the simple past. And as a wrap-up activity, you have a dialogue that can be performed in pairs or in groups. And here it says that, like, suppose you're talking to a classmate from another state or country about your culture. Approach the differences between your culture and his or her own. Give some hints on what he or she would need to do in order to adapt to the environment or culture. Yes? And so the students can use the second conditional. Actually, they need to be encouraged to use this structure. Okay? So guys, it was a little bit, hard to record this video using another platform, another app. And actually, I'm recording it from the computer, and so that's it for today, guys. Although I've been a little bit nervous during the presentation, yes, I'm really satisfied with its results. Yes, I've been applying this way of working with videos, grammar topics, vocabulary, and it has been accepted by my students. Yes, and I wanted to share something good with you. Yes, something that can work, that can be nice to large groups in a school, or especially schools, because you may have 20 to 30 or 40 students in class. I hope it was helpful and useful to you, and if it was so, please hit the like, the share, and the subscribe buttons down below. It will help me a lot, and it's gonna tell me that, okay, Meg, your efforts are worth it, and you're gonna support my work, my project, and I intend to help my peers in order to have some ideas on how to work with English, work with the language, work with some open themes, yes, in a classroom, in a way that you can have your students interact most part of the time. Okay? So thanks for everything. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time. Bye bye, guys.